Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. So hopefully you all can hear me above any background noise. I do have my air on right now and it's kind of loud, as it always is. So this is going to be an update video for what has kind of been going on with me medically lately as far as my health. I did have a follow-up with my primary care last week, and today I finally had the follow-up with the nephrologist. I believe that's like his official title. Kidney doctor, and they did give me like their full report from the kidney biopsy that they did on me on April the 20th is when they did it, right? Yeah, they did it on the 20th. I believe I got let go from the hospital on the 21st, so yeah, that makes sense. So honestly, I'm a little upset. I'm trying not to get emotional in this video because I still feel like I don't completely know what's going on, and it seems like it's going to be a while really until I get any answers. But based on the biopsy that they did, in some ways it was kind of inconclusive. It didn't really let them know completely of what's going on with me as they thought that it would. It did allude to the fact that there's definitely something autoimmune going on, but they still don't quite think that it's lupus. They started mentioning blood disorders and other autoimmune diseases. They originally thought that I was septic. So when I first went into the hospital, that's what they thought. But after I was there for a couple of days, they started thinking, well, there's no cause of an infection for sepsis. And they started looking at other things autoimmune related. So even in this report, it says infection with sepsis is in the differential diagnosis for, I can't even pronounce this word, rhabdomyosis. I'm not saying that right. I'll try and put it on the screen in this patient. Then it says the cause and clinical significance of the focal interstitial lymphocyte. Oh, Lord Jesus. Pretty much they're saying it's not clear. It's not clear that it was sepsis. Before they were saying that the possible infection site would have been my ankle. They were thinking maybe, how that would have happened, I don't know. It's an ankle surgery from 2009. There is a scar there, but there's literally no broken skin, nothing, no way for anything to get in whatsoever. My only thought process with that was maybe the equipment that's in my ankle. I have a metal plate and 4 screws left in there. Maybe my body was rejecting that. I don't know. That was just my thought process when they mentioned, the infections in your ankle, when they didn't really know for sure. They had already tested me, my urine, didn't have a UCI or anything else that people usually have that, usually get sepsis. I didn't have any of the other stuff, so they immediately went to the ankle because that's where I had pain at. And then I mentioned to you all, I'm pretty sure I did in that original video, that my lymph nodes were swollen. And now they are saying that that is the cause of all of this. That my lymph nodes being swollen is potentially what's going on. It's an autoimmune response. My body is trying to let me know of something. They mentioned my white blood cell count, and to the point where they are wanting to refer me to an oncologist to do a biopsy of my lymph nodes, and that is extremely scary. He was acting as if, he's not super concerned about it, but that's the next step to figure out what's going on with me. And then at the same time, when I was in the hospital, they also told me that I had a cyst on my leftover, I believe, a very small one. And then when I mentioned that to my primary care last week, she tried to blow me off like, oh, well, women our age usually do get those cysts, and I get that they're common. And she's like, it could go away and all this stuff. And she's like, oh, I probably have a cyst right now and all this other stupid shit. But it's just crazy to me how I went to my primary care the earlier part of this year. I started having issues with what I thought was swollen lymph nodes. Like right here was swollen the earlier part of this year, like in January, and I had pain in it. And I made an appointment for my primary care because I thought that my lymph nodes were swollen. I thought something was going on. I've literally never had pain right here and swelling. Yes, I do have a double chin. When I said that it was swollen, and I had pain. So I thought it was my lymph nodes. I could not get an appointment to my doctor until February the 23rd. At that time, I also mentioned to her, my blood pressure had started to become elevated the earlier part of this year. I never had issues with my blood pressure before, and my blood pressure and my pulse started to become elevated. So I mentioned that to her in the appointment on the February the 23rd, and I mentioned my swollen lymph nodes. And at that time, she told me, oh, well, these are just your saliva glands that are actually swollen. It's not your lymph nodes. And she was telling me how I need to make sure that I stay hydrated, and how I need to maybe consume some sour candy or eat some sour things to try and break up whatever is going on with my saliva glands. And at that point, her focus shifted towards my blood pressure at the time. And she started me on a medication called olmesartan. That's the generic name of it. It starts with the O, olmesartan. And she started me on that on February the 23rd. I started the medication the same day that she prescribed it. I went to Walgreens, picked it up, started the same day. Fast forward to March the 7th. I start having, March the 6th. We'll go to March the 6th. I start having some type of reaction. I don't know what it is. My skin just starts to bother me. I'm itching uncontrollably to the point where I have hives all over both of my arms. My face is incredibly itchy and red. It starts becoming itchy right here, like around this area, around my eyes. My eyes, honestly, that's another thing. My eyes were red, like almost bloodshot red, and they have been red like that since December. When I mentioned it to her, she thought, oh no, it's probably just your blood pressure. There's so much pressure. We need to control your blood pressure. That's what it's coming from. I'm just sorry. I'm really upset, and I'm trying not to be, but so that all of that happens. March the 6th, I start experiencing symptoms, and it's to the point where it's so uncontrollably itchy. I didn't even sleep that night. So when go to March 7th, I go to the med center, which is like a ER, but it's not onto like a full hospital, and it's not considered a urgent care either. It's a med center. I go there. I let them know what's going on with me. They then, at that point, the doctor at the med center tells me that, oh, it's just a reaction to the blood pressure medication. We don't know what else it could be if you're not consuming anything new. You're not using anything new on your skin. It's the blood pressure medication. That's what they go with at the med center. They, at that point, take me off of the olmesartan, and they put me on amlodipine. Again, these are the generic names for these medicines. They put me on amlodipine, a high blood pressure medication. And then in the med center, they give me Benadryl, and then they tell me to take Benadryl, even though Benadryl wasn't even taking the edge off. It did nothing for me for the hives. But they also put me on prednisone. The prednisone does eventually help to clear this up within a couple of days. That incident, it clears up the itchiness that I'm experiencing, and the hives go away. I don't think anything of it. So fast forward to April, the beginning part of April, I would say about April 3rd or 4th, I start experiencing symptoms, which is the start of all of this. I start experiencing more symptoms. My first symptom was pain in my right lower ankle. That is where my incision site is. I had a surgery in 2009. I broke my ankle pretty bad. I had a surgery to prepare it. I had a surgery to repair it. I had two surgeries. The first surgery, they put in a metal plate and 6 screws. They went in a couple months after that, June of that year. I had the surgery in March, and then in June of that year, they went in and they took out 2 of the long screws. So they went in the same incision. The second time, I had a little bit of issues healing up. They had to put me on some medication to help me heal. Everything was fine. That's in 2009. We're in 2022 now. I start having pain in my lower right ankle. Now, I do have some pain sometimes. I've got a lot of weight on me. I'm getting older. Those particular days, the beginning of April, it was raining really bad here. And sometimes if it's cold and rainy, I will have pain. That's not unusual. This particular pain, it was a little weird because hurting more than normal to the point where I'm hopping. I can barely walk. I thought that was weird. I didn't think too much of it. I start having pain in my upper right thigh. Please remember that. It's very important. My upper right thigh, I start having a lot of pain, and I feel something that almost feels like some kind of knot under my skin. It was a swollen lymph node, but now in my upper right thigh. I didn't know you had lymph nodes right there. I mean, who would know unless you're in the medical field? Who just knows that? I didn't know that. But at the time, it started to swell up and I had pain in my lower right ankle. So that's around, what, the 3rd or the 4th. Go to the 5th. I start feeling a little, no, 3rd or 4th. Yeah. Go to the 5th. I start feeling a little sick. At that point, I didn't have a fever though. My appetite started to decrease. And I was just thinking, you know, I have been trying to watch what I eat. I do have a dietitian. I have had a dietitian since the later part of last year. And we've been working on, you know, how often I eat, working on like my food patterns, things like that. So I've been trying to eat 3 times a day, watching my portions. I haven't cut out carbs and sugars and all that completely, but everything in moderation. Like I'm starting to become more aware of that. So in knowing that, you know, that we're kind of working on how I handle food, you know, my appetite started to decrease, and I was like, well, maybe my body is just getting used to the fact that I am eating 3 times a day. I am, you know, lowering my portions. Maybe my stomach isn't as stretched out, because I mean, it would be to the point where I would wait all day to eat and I would just eat so much food, and I'm not doing that anymore. So I'm thinking, okay, my body, my metabolism maybe is speeding up a little bit or something. So my appetite does decrease those first couple of days. I didn't think anything of it. The ankle pain at this point is getting worse. Go to the 6th. That was the last day that I was at work, April the 6th, I think. So that whole day, I kind of felt a little off. And again, I didn't think anything of it. A lot of me, part of me was thinking it was burnout from work. I've been extremely burnt out, not really feeling my job lately, I'll be honest with you. And I felt like that was starting to take a toll on me mentally and physically. So, you know, you ignore some of these things. But as the day goes on the 6th, I start feeling pretty bad. Like the last couple hours of work, I was literally shaking because I was so cold. And I felt a little feverish, but I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to stay, thug it out. I got a couple hours left, and then I'll go home. By the time I got off of work at 9, and I ended up getting caught on a call, so I didn't leave till about like 9:20. It was to the point where I almost felt like I couldn't drive myself home. I felt that sick. And I almost called my ex and was like, hey, can you come pick me up? I don't think I can drive home. I didn't though. I drove home. I just took my time. When I got here, I don't even think I ate anything. I don't think I took a shower. I just got in bed because I felt so bad. The next morning I woke up. I have to work 12 to 9, but I woke up extra early because I didn't take a shower that night. So I wanted to get up and take a shower. I took a shower. The whole time in the shower, like my heart is beating so fast. Like I feel like my pulse is extremely high. And that was another one of my symptoms. I had an elevated pulse for a couple of weeks. I do take my blood pressure, and I also have an oxygen pulse ox thing. I got one of those during COVID. So, well, we're still in COVID, but during 2020, I got a blood pressure thing, and I invested in one of those things you put on your finger to test your oxygen, because obviously, you know, given everything that's going on, I wanted to keep an eye on that. So, my pulse, like resting, was like 135, very high for me. So I was like, something is going on. So I ended up calling out of work. That was on a Thursday that I called out on the 7th, I'm pretty sure. And at that point, I was feeling bad. I did test out my temperature, and it was over 100. I think it might have been like 101.9 or something. It was pretty high. And I was like, okay, I got a fever. I need to call back to work to HR and let them know, hey, I have a fever. I'm going to go get tested for COVID. So around that time, CVS, I had checked to see if they had any appointments. They didn't have the rapid testing, but they did have the one that comes back in a couple days. I went ahead and just took the appointment down the street from my house, and they could get me in within like the next hour or two, I think. I woke up that morning and woke up at like 7 or something. I got up pretty early. And I went and searched for an appointment then after I tested my temperature. And they had one at like 10:45 or something. 10:45, 11. It was really quick for a same day appointment, which I wasn't expecting. But it wasn't for the rapid testing. But I still went ahead and did it. And I called my job after I had made the appointment though. I called my job. I called HR. Keep in mind, I'd already called the call out line, but then I called HR and I was like, hey, I have a fever. And I'm going to go get a COVID test, because we have to let them know that. It wasn't just a regular call out. So I had to let them know, hey, this is possibly COVID. And at that point, she let me know, well, you still need to, we want you to actually reach out to your doctor's office, and they need to type up a note and let us know that they are suggesting that you get tested, just in case you come back negative, you'll be covered. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll do that. I called my doctor's office, I let them know my symptoms. At that point, my symptoms were, I had a fever, I had chills, I had body aches, and then I had an elevated pulse. And they said, okay, go ahead and get tested. I think she had already seen in the system that the testing was already going through, because at this point I've already gotten swabbed. I didn't get swabbed, I did the swab thing, which I mentioned that in the first video. Y'all can go back and see what I said about that. But it's one of those self-service things, and you just put it in a little drop box or whatever. So I'd already swabbed, and she had access, the nurse did, that I talked to on the phone. She was like, I can already see the testing is, is going through or whatever through CVS. And she's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and type up the note, for your job. It's no problem, which is great. So I had to wait for the results. That was on a Thursday. I got the results back Friday night, like kind of late. They came through like 9 something or 10. I got an email. And the testing that they did was for COVID and then for type A and B flu. And I was negative for all of those. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking something's got to be wrong. I mean, I don't run fevers. I don't get sick like that. I really don't. Until now, I've had a pretty decent immune system. So at that point, I get the results back, and they are negative. Excuse me. They're negative. And I'm like, I still feel bad. Something's wrong with me. At this point, between Thursday and Friday, waiting for the results, I've got fevers back to back nonstop. Thursday is when I stopped eating, pretty much. I had a graham cracker here and there. I think I tried to take a bite of a Chick-fil-A sandwich on Thursday. I took one bite and I was like, I can't do this. Something doesn't taste right. So that's what was making me think it was COVID too. Like, even though that was after I'd already gotten tested, that kind of almost reassured to me that, oh, this is COVID, because I can't eat. And when I did take a bite of the sandwich, it kind of tasted funny. It tasted like chicken, but it just didn't taste right. So I pretty much stopped eating. We'll say that I stopped eating. I think I ate some Jell-O or a graham cracker here and there, but it wasn't enough to allude to any calories, pretty much. I was trying to drink water the best that I could. By Friday, it was to the point where I was vomiting. I couldn't keep anything down that I did try to consume. And it was to the point where food disgusted me. I couldn't think about food, couldn't look at it on a commercial or an ad. Somebody tried to talk to me about food on the phone. I can't talk about it. I can't do anything. And I later found out that, the way they were explaining it to me, my kidneys, my body pretty much wasn't filtering what was already in there. So it's like it was sending signals to my brain that you can't really consume anymore, or that the food is nasty or whatever, because it wasn't filtering what was already there. So it was trying to tell my body, don't put any more in me, pretty much, is the gist of what they told me. So at that point, I really couldn't eat or drink anything. I was vomiting. I get the results back that Friday night, and they were negative, and I was just like, no, that can't be right. So at that point, though, I didn't schedule another COVID test or anything. I was just like, okay, I gotta try and get better. I was like, Saturday, maybe this will pass. At this point, I'm just waiting, because I'm thinking I got some kind of bug, it'll pass. Times that I have been sick in the past, I don't stay sick long. I don't get sick, but when I do get sick, I don't stay sick long. So I was like, okay, maybe it'll pass. Saturday comes, I vomit again. I'm feeling worse. It's to the point where my fevers are back to back. That last time I tried to take Tylenol, I threw up. I drank some water, I took some Tylenol, and then within seconds I threw up. I couldn't keep Tylenol down anymore. And I was like, this is bad. So Saturday night, I really didn't sleep like that. I just felt like something was wrong. And it was the same feeling I had when I had the pulmonary embolism. I had a pulmonary embolism in 2009 after my ankle surgery, after the first one. I had a pulmonary embolism, and I remember having that same feeling like I can't go to sleep because I'm not going to wake up. I'll never forget that feeling, ever. I'll never forget it. Like, I felt like something was wrong with me. And I stayed up all night, and then the next day on Sunday, I was like, I gotta go somewhere. Something is not right. I have to go somewhere. So I had thought about going to urgent care, but I was like, no, something is seriously wrong with me. So I went to the med center, which is like a ER. I at least knew there that if something was wrong with me, they could hook me up to IVs, or they could give me what I needed. I knew that an urgent care wasn't going to do what I needed. So I went to the med center, and this particular Sunday, they just happened to be like packed for whatever reason. And they got me back there pretty quickly though. I let them know when I got to the counter, hey, this is my fever. The fever won't go away. I've had it consistently for a couple of days. I'm vomiting. I can't eat or drink. I let them know that I had been tested for COVID and the flu and that it was negative. They went ahead and they took me back. They did an EKG. They did my blood pressure, got my temperature, still had a temperature. It wasn't quite 101, but it was like 100 or something. And they went ahead and got me back to one of their little rooms. Doctor comes in, they let me know of what's going on as far as them running some tests. He asked me some questions about my symptoms. At that time, I let him know. By the time I got to the med center, I started having abdominal pain. I had upper abdominal pain. And that later went away. I think it was, I don't know what it was really, but it did go away. That went away by the time I ended up at the actual hospital. So at the med center, they're running all kinds of tests. They do a urinalysis to get my urine. And at that point is when they kind of started freaking out a little bit. And they started mentioning my kidney function and all this stuff, and how my kidneys were not doing so good, which is, I've literally never had kidney issues in my life. And part of me was just thinking, well, maybe I'm dehydrated, you know. They were like, no, it's a little bit more than that. And I'm just like, at this point, what the hell is going on? They run all these tests. When I say they run hella tests, they start asking me questions about STDs. They start talking about HIV, all this stuff. I get tested on a regular basis. I think the last time I got tested, it probably was like in September, I think. But of course, they test me again for all that stuff. It comes back negative. And the reason they did that too is because I think my white blood cell count, and just based on my symptoms, they had already listened to my lungs. They did a chest x-ray. They didn't do the heart thing until I got to the hospital. They did like an ultrasound of my heart, and they didn't do that to the hospital. But they did, you know, they wanted to check out my lungs especially. They did do another COVID test. As soon as they took me back, the nurse came in and she had the long Q-tip thing. She did it in there one nostril 10 times. And it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I mean, it's not an enjoyable experience, but I knew it needed to happen. And at that point, I was just so sick. I was about delirious, honestly, at that point. I really didn't know whether I was coming or going. So they did that. That comes back and it's negative. So that's when they start asking me questions about, you know, different testing. And, you know, they look back on my previous test. They tested me again for all this stuff. And then when I got into the hospital, they tested me again for even more stuff. They even did a damn gonorrhea test or chlamydia or some shit where they swipe the back of your throat and damn near choke you. It's like a strep test. And the whole time I'm thinking, like, I literally have not been intimate with anybody since 2018. Not that that's anybody's business, but I think y'all are looking in the wrong direction. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but at the same time, I'm thinking this is really a waste of time. This is not going to lead us back to anything. So they test me for all that stuff. They test me for kidney function. Again, my kidneys are starting to struggle. At that point, when I first went into the hospital, I was on my cycle, which is crazy. I was already feeling bad, and then my cycle started. I was on my cycle, and about a day or two after me actually being admitted into the hospital, my cycle stops, but I still actually have blood in my urine. We'll get to that. So they run all these tests, and then that's when they first mentioned sepsis to me in the med center. And they were, you know, trying to ask me questions to kind of figure out where maybe the infection could have came from. They asked me stuff about UTIs, things like that. I let them know, hey, I don't have any symptoms of that kind of thing. They're really focusing in on my ankle pain because they think that's where it's coming from. A whole lot of stuff. They really couldn't figure it out at that point. And he's like, hey, we're going to go ahead and get you admitted to the hospital. By that point, after them running all those tests and having to wait for a while because it was packed, it was about 10 o'clock at night when they let me know, you're going to be transferred over to one of the hospitals in the next major city. So I was like, okay. I had a feeling that was coming. As the night went on, I had a feeling that I probably wasn't going to leave up out of there. Go ahead and put in for me to be transferred over. They get me a bed. I didn't get to the hospital, though, in the next city till about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. They were just kind of backed up. So the critical care team came. They got me on the ambulance, and they got me transported over. Great group of guys. They were really awesome, talking to me, just trying to keep my spirits up. When I got on the ambulance, they were taking my blood pressure every so often, just making sure that I was still like alert and aware. I did have an IV in the whole time on there. In my IV, I think were they giving me antibiotics at that point? They hadn't started the IV antibiotics yet. They were just doing the IV fluids, and they had started back giving me Tylenol in the med center by pill form. Was it pill form, or did they put it in my IV? That part I'm a little shaky with. It's been quite a few weeks now since the beginning of that, so I'm not sure. They may have given it to me in IV form, or maybe pill form. I don't really remember. But they started giving me Tylenol too, and again, I was thinking that's not going to help because it hasn't been helping, and of course it did not help. At that point, they get me transferred over to the hospital. When we get into the hospital, I'm kind of paying attention to the floor that they have me on, and they had me on the progressive care unit. It said progressive care unit urology, so PCU urology floor. And I'm thinking, dang, like, are my kidneys that bad? And they were. My kidney function was very, very bad, apparently. Whatever autoimmune response or whatever I have going on in my body had started to attack the kidneys. Luckily, it didn't attack any other organs, but it did focus in primarily on my kidneys. So that happens. I get on the floor. I get to my bed. Some nurses, of course, waiting for me because it is so late in the evening. They get me situated, get my vitals. They go ahead and start back, any medicine. Well, at that point, they still have me on the IV fluid. The doctor comes in probably maybe 30 minutes after that, and he sits down and he's like, so tell me what's going on with you, because the notes from the med center are kind of all over the place. He was like, they mentioned abdominal pain and this and that. Let me know what has happened so far. So immediately I'm like, fevers. I let him know the whole thing. Fevers, pain in my upper right leg, pain in my lower right ankle. I let him know I'm having chills, I'm having body aches. I let him know, how consistent the fevers have been. And I let him know I don't have a history of having fevers like this when I get sick. So at that point, he orders the IV antibiotics, and they go ahead and start it immediately. And it was still even 24 hours until my fever stopped. They literally, they were at the same time also giving me Tylenol. I'm pretty sure they kept giving me Tylenol during that period too. And they just couldn't. They would come and check my vitals. Like, they were always in there checking it, and my fever just would not go away. And that really started to scare me, because I'm just like, dang, I'm getting the good stuff from them now. What's wrong with me? And they couldn't get it to stop. It was like the next day, I was finally at a normal temperature, and everybody was relieved, including me. They kept going with the IV antibiotics for about 3 days after that. So I was on them for about 4 days. And during this period, they're constantly checking my vitals, obviously my vitals, but they're constantly checking my blood. Obviously, in the hospital, if you've ever had a hospital stay, they come in like 4:30 every morning, and they take blood if your doctor orders it. So I literally had my blood taken every morning that I was there for all 10 days. So they took my blood. During this point, when I was transferred over to the hospital, walking back and forth just from, the gurney to the bed, and then, from the bed to the bathroom, I did experience a lot of pain when I was walking, and it wasn't just in my right ankle, it was in both ankles. When I tell y'all, like, I don't know what was going on. Now I know, because he mentioned it in today's appointment. He mentioned that I had a lot of muscle breakdown, and we don't even know what caused that. But anyway, it was hard for me to walk to the bathroom. Like, they literally had to give me a walker because I could barely walk. And I remember thinking, what's wrong with me? Because I walked into the med center, fairly okay. My ankle was hurting, but it wasn't to this point. So by the time they transferred me to that hospital that night, and I needed to get up and go to the bathroom, or go from the stretcher thing that they transported me on to my actual hospital bed, I could barely walk. Like, it was all I could do to make 2 steps by myself. So at this point, I was freaking out. Like, what's wrong with me? I mean, I was literally going downhill fast at that point. So during my stay at the hospital, I had several doctors come in, and the kidney doctor was called in, I think, about the first day. He was called in, obviously, because of my numbers. And he just let me know, we're going to go ahead and put you on the IV steroids. Selmetrazole, is that what the name of it is? I'm probably saying that incorrectly. So they go ahead and they put me on that, and they put me on a very high dose of that. It was 2 big doses of it, like 2 very large doses. And then they had me on prednisone after that, and I'm still on prednisone now. They gave me orders to start weaning down, so I have like a schedule of the milligrams and how far I'm gonna go down. Like this week, this morning I had to take 40 milligrams, and then for the rest of this week I'm gonna do 20 milligrams, and then the week after that 10, and the week after that 5, and then stop. So by the end of May, I will be done with the prednisone, and we'll see how my body reacts to being off of the steroids. But they had me on a very high dose of the IV steroids, to the point where the first time they put it in the IV, they claimed the nurse probably pushed it in a little too fast. But the first time they gave me the steroids, I had a reaction to it immediately. Like, not even a couple seconds after her pushing it into my IV, I began vomiting, like almost uncontrollably, to the point where my nose started bleeding. I don't even have nosebleeds, but my nose started bleeding. They almost thought I was vomiting blood, but it was actually just coming out of my nose. So that was an experience. They immediately gave me some Zofran. They had been giving me Zofran on and off anytime I felt nauseous, but they immediately gave me Zofran because of that. And every time that they gave me the steroids, they would always give me Zofran beforehand. They did IV Zofran the first couple of times. Well, no, they only gave me 2 big doses. So, well, no, they didn't. They gave me more than 2 big doses of the steroid. They gave me several, because every time they did, they would have to bring in the Zofran beforehand. They did the Zofran in IV form the first couple of times. Then they had me taking the pill form of the Zofran, and they would come in about 30 minutes prior and go ahead and give me the Zofran first, and then give me the big dose of the steroids. So they had me on the heavy dose of the steroids probably for a couple of days then. Again, it's been a lot to happen and a lot of information to process. So at that point, I'm in the hospital. My kidney numbers start getting bad, and that is to the point where that's when they mentioned the kidney biopsy that they want to do. So they mentioned that during this time period also, my legs are swelling up so bad that it's unreal, and my body's just retaining so much fluid. My feet were so puffy, my ankles, my legs started having like red splotches on them, and it was to the point where it was like pitting edema. So if you know what pitting edema is, it's when you're swelling to the point where you press in on the skin and it doesn't immediately pop back up, I guess you could say. I've never really had that. Like, I'm a big girl, don't get me wrong. It doesn't mean that every big person has those health issues or that we swell or anything like that. Child, I'm just fat, I never really had swelling like that. So when that happened, they were like, what's going on? At that point, it had them stumped. So also during this time period, I'm having joint pain. I mentioned before, how I'm always kind of in some form of pain. I generally don't feel well. But it's never like to the point where I'm sick. Like, I think a lot of it sometimes, from what I'm assuming, is just me being physically and emotionally tired, and I feel like emotionally drained, and I feel like sometimes it relays or it comes through as like physical pain for me. That's how I feel sometimes, but that may not be the case. Who really knows at this point? But I'm having joint pain and ankle pain, and I could barely walk, all these symptoms. So it's got them going and thinking, okay, maybe it's lupus. So they start throwing lupus out there and all this stuff, and I'm like, what's really going on? Again, they don't know. They're just trying to check off some stuff and figure something out. So time goes by. They mentioned the kidney biopsy. Had a couple of days where my kidney numbers were not looking good. They go ahead and get this kidney biopsy scheduled. My numbers start improving, actually, because at this point, I've been on they've taken me off the IV antibiotics. They've got me on the steroids. I've been consistently taking the steroids for a couple of days. So naturally, my body is going to start improving. So my kidney function does start improving some. It's still not where it needs to be, though. It's not where it is now. Now my kidney function is stable. It was not stable then. So they go ahead and they schedule the biopsy. I'll do a separate video on the biopsy process because I know this video is kind of long, and what I went through with that, if y'all are interested in that. So they want to do the kidney biopsy, obviously, because it's going to tell them more information as to what's really going on as a whole. Is the cause of all this my high blood pressure? Do I have an autoimmune disease or disorder? What is really going on? They say that it's going to be conclusive and all this good stuff. So they do the biopsy. They keep me overnight for observation, and then they discharge me finally from the hospital on the 21st. So I was in the hospital from the April the 9th through the 21st. Yeah, I was in the hospital from the 9th through the 21st. So they go ahead and they discharge me on the 21st. I go home. They set up my follow-up with the kidney doctor for 2 weeks from that day. So, well, no, 2 weeks from Wednesday or whatever. So, which is today. I had my follow-up with him today, and then I had my follow-up with my primary care last Wednesday. When I go to the primary care, we just have a little talk because during this whole time, I barely could get in touch with my primary care. Like, I don't know what I was expecting, but I guess I was expecting a little more communication. I thought she would have at least called and checked on me once, and she really didn't. And then I got such pushback when it came to her filling out the paperwork for my short-term disability for my job, because after a certain amount of days, that's what they want you to do. Like, you can't just you can max out all of your vacation and sick time and all that stuff, but after a certain point, they're just like, okay, you need to do short-term disability. And I needed her to complete that paperwork because she's my primary care, and I got a lot of pushback from that, which was very upsetting. I did eventually get it filled out. They did what they needed to do, but it was too much extra for somebody that was already in the hospital and was sick, having to get people to go and drop off the paperwork, and then her still being like, oh, well, I can't do it until you're discharged. Obviously, I've been in here this long. Who the hell knows when I'm going to get out? But anyway, that got taken care of. And so I was talking to her during the follow-up, and she wanted to do some more blood work to see where I was at. And I mentioned to her the cyst that they claim that I have on my left ovary. I mentioned that to her, and that's when she was like, oh, well, it's normal for women our age to have that, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. It probably is, but at the same time, I'm just like, don't you think this is suspicious? Don't you? I mean, whatever. And then even looking at this paperwork, because I have my discharge paperwork in front of me, and then I have the renal biopsy report in front of me as well. On the discharge paperwork, it says systematic inflammatory response syndrome. Whatever. So did the follow-up with her. She got blood work and all that good stuff. I talked to her about when I would return to work. We thought it would be best for me to wait until I talked to my kidney doctor. So I talked to him today, and I'm fine to go back to work next week. I do have a couple of restrictions, just bathroom restrictions. Obviously, I work in a call center, but I need to be able to go to the bathroom when I need to, and it not, affect me or whatever, or them not have any consequences, because I need to be able to go to the bathroom. So that was the main one. So hopefully, I went ahead and took the paperwork back to my primary care today for the release for the return to work, and hopefully she can get that faxed and to them people, so I can go back to work next week and it not be an issue. I'm really hoping it's not an issue. I just want this stuff to go smoothly. Whereas today, what the kidney doctor said, he wants me to see an oncologist, and they want to get a biopsy of my lymph nodes. Which ones? I'm not sure. You want to get the ones up here or the one in my leg? I'm thinking they're talking about the one that was swollen in my leg, to make sure there's nothing there. I have a follow-up with him in about 6 weeks, to see how my body is responding to not being on the prednisone. Obviously, if something comes up before the 6 weeks, I can call him and let him know. They want to possibly do a referral to a rheumatologist, I think. The thing is though, I'm not having much joint pain anymore. Like, my hands bother me, but as far as my other joints, I'm feeling good. I'm not really having any ankle pain. And I let him know because, I'm not really having any pain like that. My hands are bothering me as far as cramping and things like that. He let me know, we can go ahead and do a referral for that. Of course, if it increases, let me know, that kind of thing. So right now we're looking at an oncology appointment. They're going to call me and get that set up for a biopsy. I'm not sure when or how soon that will be. And then I am being weaned off of the prednisone gradually to see how my body responds. And my kidney function is back where it needs to be. As far as how I feel physically, I do feel fine. I was experiencing some fatigue before, and they had me monitoring my urine and my blood pressure and pulse. My blood pressure and pulse are doing a lot better. My urine, I was having some issues when I first got out of the hospital. My urine was kind of foamy and I was urinating like a lot, but obviously that was because my body was recovering. My urine is normal now. So I feel fine physically. Emotionally, I don't feel fine because I feel like I still don't really have all the answers, and I really don't know what's wrong with me. I'm trying not to freak out about it because I'm only 31 and they're mentioning oncology appointments and things like that. But I just have to, I just have to do what I have to do to, continue to live my life the best that I can, and hope and pray that they don't find anything, which hopefully they don't. And if they do, then I'll just have to deal with it. But that's just where we're at. So kind of upsetting, really upsetting, but I'm stable right now, and hopefully as I get weaned off of the prednisone, my body doesn't do this again. Hopefully it doesn't. I think one thing that really saved me before was after I had that reaction on March the 7th, they had me on prednisone for a little bit, and it's like that maybe contained it. And I think that prednisone also helped the lymph node thing that I was having before. Just keep in mind, my lymph nodes were swollen before, and then I had a reaction, what they call a reaction to that first blood pressure medication, and they put me on prednisone and I got better, and the lymph node thing disappeared. Sorry y'all, that was actually the pharmacy calling me, just let me know that my updated prescription was ready, because they went down on the milligrams for my prednisone. They had me doing 20 milligrams 2 times a day, and since they're going to be weaning me down, they needed to switch me to the 5 milligram tablets, which the message I just got from Walgreens, they're trying to say that I got to pay $9 out of pocket, which $9 isn't bad, obviously, compared to what people pay for their medicine, but I don't remember the last time I had to pay for a prescription. So I might need to talk to the pharmacist about that. Or maybe it's just that my insurance, it's got to be the change in the milligrams maybe, which is crazy. You would think the 20 milligrams that you would have to pay out of pocket for, but I guess the 5 milligram tablets I'm gonna have to pay out of pocket for. I don't know, but that's the update, y'all. So thoughts and prayers are appreciated. Still gonna go about my life, and as I go to these doctor's appointments and find out more, I'll keep y'all updated, and we're just gonna hope and pray for the best. And I've already talked to my mom about it, which, gosh, that's such shitty news to give somebody, especially when it's about to be Mother's Day. Like, it's really shitty, but it is what it is, and just gonna go about my life like normal and try not to freak out too much about it, because still don't know anything really. But it's just the thought of, I've already had a kidney biopsy, now they want to do a biopsy of my freaking lymph nodes, and I have to go speak with the oncologist to do that. That just, all of that is just, I guess, what's upsetting me the most, and that would upset anybody. But I just need to go and do it and get it over with, and just go from there. So yeah, but in my head everything is gonna be fine. I just, you know, I'm allowed to be upset about it, but I am just gonna try my best to enjoy the next couple of days off that I have. It's crazy because I was saying how burnt out I was at the beginning of the year and how much I needed a vacation. This is not the way I envisioned myself getting a vacation. I've been out of work now for about a month. Been off of work, not out of work. Still got the job, but I've been off of work now for about a month, really. Almost a month. The 7th will be a month that I haven't been back to work. But I think, you know, like I said, if my doctor goes ahead and just faxes that paperwork, I should be able to start back next week. So that'll be interesting, going back to work after a month. I feel like I've almost forgotten all of my passwords for all of my stuff to log in at work. So I have to figure that out, but just try and get back to my normal routine. I'm so thankful to be feeling better. I'm so thankful, because I mean, I was feeling bad, like really bad. Like, it's a horrible feeling when you feel like your body is literally fighting against you. It's a horrible feeling. Like you literally feel poisoned. That's what I felt like I was literally poisoned. And just that feeling the night before I went to the hospital, I'll never forget it as long as I live. I'll never forget it. So all of that to say, y'all, listen to your body. The moment you feel like something is not right, please go and do something about it. Please go. If I would have waited any longer, I probably wouldn't be here, or I probably would have been into full kidney failure if I waited any longer. That absolutely would have happened. So just listen to your body and try your best to live life to the fullest, because you never know what could happen. Thank y'all so much for the love and support. It's meant so much right now. Y'all have no idea, because I really am having a hard time with all of this, and I'm trying not to, but it's a lot. It's a lot, like not having an answer in black and white. I understand that everything is not so black and white in life, that there are gray areas, but I just wish that I knew for sure what it was, and that we could just go ahead and treat or fix whatever it was. And I just still feel like I don't know, and I don't, and that's just hard to take in. It's hard, but like I said, I'm going to try and enjoy the next couple of days that I have off. And I really want to go and like get my nails done and do all the stuff that I haven't been able to do this month, because I have been sick. And a lot of the stuff I wanted to do, you know, during the week of my birthday. Like, all this literally happened a week after my birthday. My birthday was on the 29th. And then after that, I just started getting sick. And I just want to just enjoy the last couple of days that I have, and enjoy Mother's Day weekend with my mom, and try not to think about it, and do what the doctor's telling me as far as, you know, weaning off of my medication, and just making sure I stay in touch with his office if anything changes, and wait for the call for my my oncology appointment, and just go from there. So that's all that I can do. I really appreciate the thoughts and the prayers. As far as any advice, I hate to say this because I usually don't do this to y'all, but please, any advice that you have, please hold it, because I can't take it right now. I cannot. If you have any advice or suggestions, please don't, because I can't deal with it. If I see any of it, I'll probably just delete it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I do have other videos coming up. I have recorded a Dollar Tree haul, because I did actually go to the Dollar Tree this past weekend. I haven't been in a long time, and I did actually go, and I recorded a video for that and a Walmart haul. So I just haven't edited them yet. I didn't really, not that I didn't feel like it, I've been chilling, just taking everything in and not doing much, honestly. And it has been good for me in some ways to like not be on all that stuff. But I am going to go ahead and edit them. So I'll put this video up today, which is Wednesday. And then I'll go ahead and put up the Dollar Tree haul tomorrow, and then Friday I'll do the Walmart haul. Saturday, I'll probably do like a little nail vlog or something tomorrow if I do go out and get my nails done. Just depends on how I feel. If I get there in the morning and it's kind of packed because it is Mother's Day weekend, then I probably won't. Like I said, just depends on how I feel. I'm at the point where I'm not going to do anything that I don't want to do anymore, because life is so freaking short, man. It's so short. I'm not doing anything I don't want to do anymore, and I'm going to live my life how I want to live it now. Sorry for getting so upset in this video, but it's going to be okay. And we'll just take things in as they come. So, thank y'all again for watching, and I'll talk to you again in the next video.